Feeling stuck? Yearning for more? You're in the right place. This is Midlife Moxie with Nicole Hate, where you're going to get a weekly dose of courage, clarity, and maybe a little bit of chaos as we navigate our best chapter yet, midlife.
Welcome back to Midlife Moxie with Nicole Hate. I'm your host, Nicole. Today, we're going to have a conversation that is probably going to be deeply personal for many of us and probably challenging because we're going to talk about our bodies, specifically our midlife bodies, the ones that are changing in ways that can feel foreign, frustrating, and sometimes completely out of our control. For decades, many of us have had a relationship with our body that's been identified by a number on a scale, a number that we chased, celebrated, or cried over, a number that has had way too much power over our self-worth, dictating our mood for the day, what we've allowed ourselves to eat, or whether we felt confident enough to be seen. We've stepped on that scale in the morning and we've let it determine whether we felt worthy of love, success, or even basic kindness towards ourselves. Today, we're going to step beyond the scale. We're going to talk about what it really means to reconnect with and just maybe even learn to love the body you're in right now in this season of life. We're going to explore why the relationship with our bodies becomes so complicated in midlife, and more importantly, how we can begin to heal that relationship. This episode is an invitation to be gentle with yourself. It's permission to grieve the body that you once knew and to get angry at the impossible standards society places on aging women, and to finally start building a relationship with your body that's based on collaboration and care, not control and criticism. If you've ever felt like you're fighting a losing battle with your own biology, if you've ever looked in the mirror and felt like a stranger was looking back at you, this conversation is for you. One of the most common things that I hear from women in midlife is this feeling that their body has become a stranger. The metabolism that used to be predictable suddenly slows down. Weight starts to redistribute in new and unwelcome ways. Energy fluctuates wildly, and it can all feel like a betrayal. You think, I'm doing everything right, the same things that I've always done. So why isn't my body responding? It is important that we acknowledge there is a very real grief process that comes with this. It's grief for the body that you once knew, the body that felt predictable and familiar. And it's okay to mourn that loss, even if you weren't fully satisfied with that body at the time. It was known, it was familiar. And this new landscape is unknown to us. And that uncertainty can be terrifying. This experience is also made so much harder by the deafening silence around it. How many of us grew up hearing our mothers or grandmothers talk about things like perimenopause, hormonal shifts, and about what was really happening to their bodies? For most of us, the answer is none. They either didn't have the same experience as us, or they diminished their own struggles, chalking it up to this is just life and you have to deal with it. So it's no wonder today we feel confused and alone, turning to social media and the internet to frantically find other women who can validate our own experience and just make us feel a little less crazy. This feeling of being alone is compounded by the fact that the number on the scale, our old measuring stick of success, becomes increasingly meaningless. As our body composition changes, as we lose muscle and gain fat due to hormonal shifts, that number tells us less and less about our actual health. And yet, so many of us remain fixated on a goal weight that may have been set decades ago for a body that we no longer inhabit. In midlife, the scale becomes particularly cruel and inaccurate because it's a measure of our well-being. And it's not true. For many of us, this isn't just a physical struggle. It triggers a deeper identity crisis. If you've built your identity around being the fit one or the disciplined one, or even the one that is always struggling with weight, what happens when your body changes despite your consistent habits? It can feel like the very foundation of who you are is crumbling around you. Who are you, if not the person who could control their body through sheer willpower? And this is a profound question that deserves our attention and compassion. And layered on top of all of this is the new relentless pressure of social media. We're not just comparing ourselves to our peers anymore. We're now comparing ourselves to filtered, curated, and often surgically enhanced versions of aging that are not realistic. We're also confronted with a constant stream of our own younger selves through looking back at old photos or creating painful comparisons between the body we have now and the body that we once had. The emotional toll of all of this cannot be overstated. Many women describe feeling like they're mourning not just their younger body, but their younger self entirely. There's a sense of loss that goes beyond the physical. It's about energy, possibility, and feeling at home in your own skin. And because we all live in a culture that worships youth, especially in women, this grief often goes unacknowledged and unsupported. On top of all of these internal struggles, we are also bombarded with toxic and contradictory messages from the outside world. So let's take some time here to dismantle some of the most harmful myths about midlife bodies, because calling them out is the first step to freeing ourselves from their grip. The myth of your metabolism is broken and it's your fault. The reality is, metabolic changes are normal and a biological part of aging. It's not personal, nor is it a moral failing. The constant messaging that we just need to try harder or find the right restrictive diet completely ignores the biological reality of hormonal shifts that affect our insulin sensitivity, our muscle mass, and our energy expenditure. This leads directly to the next toxic phrase. You've let yourself go if you're not fighting aging. And somehow this implies that the natural process of aging is a choice, a failure of discipline. The idea that self-care is synonymous with appearing younger women keeps women in a constant, exhausting battle against their own biology rather than learning to take care for the body that they have today. The message, menopause, weight gain, is inevitable and permanent. While body changes are normal, this kind of messaging often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It strips women of hope and agency. The truth is, you can still absolutely influence your health and your body composition, but you just have to do it differently than you've done before. There's the myth of if you were just more disciplined, you'd look like you did at 25. And I see this as a form of gaslighting. A 50-year-old body is not supposed to look, feel, or function like a 25-year-old body. The goal isn't to turn back time. It's to optimize health, strength, and vitality for the life stage that you are currently in. There's a pendulum swing from appearance obsession to shaming women who do care about how they look, with a myth that real women don't care about their appearance. And this is equally as harmful. It's normal and healthy to want to feel good in your body and to present yourself to the world in a way that feels authentic and joyful. The goal isn't to stop caring. It's to care from a place of self-love, not self-criticism. And the myth that I feel is probably the most damaging is that it's too late to start taking care of yourself. This could not be further from the truth. Research consistently and overwhelmingly shows that positive changes to movement, nutrition, and self-care habits provide many benefits to women at any and every age. You can build muscle, improve your bone density, and increase your energy and vitality at 50, 60, 70, and beyond. Did you ever hear the saying, strong is the new skinny? This might have been well-intentioned, but it can become just another external standard to judge ourselves against. Instead of being valued for how we look, now we're supposed to be valued for how much we can lift or how fast we can run. But what if your body doesn't respond to the traditional methods of strength training? What if you have injuries or limitations? This can all just feel like another way of failing. And all of these myths serve the same purpose. They keep us focused on external validation rather than internal wisdom. They keep us looking outside of ourselves for answers, when the real work is learning to listen and trust our own bodies. This topic hits very close to home for me because I've lived it. No, let me rephrase that. I am currently living it. When I entered perimenopause in my late 30s, I felt like I was losing my mind and my body. But the catch was I had no idea what was happening to me. Perimenopause was not a word that was really on anyone's radar back then. I remember going to my gynecologist, a woman who was actually around my same age, and leaving the appointment with no answers. I was trusting that I would get support, and instead I got the feeling of dismissal and told my symptoms were likely just stress, part of aging, drink more water, and eat healthy. And what I have learned since then is heartbreaking and infuriating because many healthcare providers today are simply just not keeping up with the research on women's hormonal health. Too many of us are walking into appointments and walking out with our concerns minimized. Everything changed for me 3 years ago when I discovered Dr. Mary Claire Haver online. Finally, she was talking openly and had scientific backing about what happens to women's bodies in this transition. And for the first time, I had language for my experience, and it was quite the revelation. So I fired my old gynecologist and found someone who actually understands and is trained in perimenopause and menopause. The relief of finally being heard and seen by a medical professional was profound. And it underscores the absolute necessity of being our own healthcare advocates. This journey for me and so many others forces a real fundamental shift in our relationship that we have with our bodies. We have to move from control to collaboration. Many of us have spent our younger years trying to control our body through sheer discipline and willpower. Midlife hormones often make that impossible, and this can feel like a massive failure. But I see it as an invitation to a more sustainable and compassionate approach. It's learning to work with your body, to listen to its signals, rather than trying to silence or override them. This means we have to redefine strength and vitality. As estrogen declines, it affects our muscle mass, our bone density, and our recovery time. So maybe being strong is less about lifting the heaviest weight in the gym and more about maintaining the flexibility to play with your grandkids or other loved ones, the balance to walk confidently on any terrain, and the functional movement needed to live a full and active life. It's about celebrating what your body can do rather than punishing it for what it can't. It's about choosing movement that feels good and energizing, not just movement that burns the most calories. Maybe it's a dance class, a long walk in nature, or just gentle stretching. The what is less important than the how. Approaching it with a spirit of joy and appreciation. We also have to learn the wisdom of slowing down. Hormonal changes often demand more rest, more recovery, and more gentleness. And initially, this can feel incredibly frustrating, almost like limitations. But for many women, they ultimately discover that it's actually their own body's wisdom guiding them towards the kind of radical self-care and boundary setting that they should have probably been practicing for years. Ultimately, this transition gives you permission to prioritize differently. It gives permission to put your own needs first, whether that's saying no to a social obligation so that you can get enough sleep, or choosing clothes that are comfortable over those that are just stylish. It's a powerful shift, honoring what your body truly needs. So how do we begin to make this shift in a practical way? First, it starts in your mind. Practicing awareness before action. Most of our negative body-related thoughts are automatic and inherited from decades of diet culture. The first step isn't to fight them, but to simply notice them without critical judgment. When that negative voice pops up in your head, you can just tell it, oh, there's that thought again. This helps create a tiny bit of space between the thought and your emotional reaction to it. Once you have that space, you can then begin to reframe the internal dialogue. Many of us have that inner critic that speaks to us more harshly than we would ever speak to our own worst enemy, let alone a friend. When you notice that voice, consciously ask yourself, what would I say to my best friend who was feeling this way? And then try saying that to yourself. It can provide a great immediate relief. Looking at the power of and thinking. Instead of the all or nothing mindset of I'm either healthy or I'm a failure, what if you could look at the complexity of the picture? You can say, I'm frustrated with how my body is changing, and I'm grateful that it allows me to stand upright, work, walk, or nurture my loved ones. This can help reduce the mental pressure that often leads to just giving up entirely. Connect with your future self. Don't visualize the appearance you want, but visualize the feeling that you want to feel. And what do you want to be able to do? Do you want to feel energetic, strong, and free? Do you want to be able to travel, play, and live without pain? This helps shift your motivation from external validation to your own internal values And this helps you make daily choices from a place of self-care, not self-punishment. Identifying your core values around health. What are those for you? Is it energy, longevity, connection, freedom, joy? Think about them and write them down. And then when you are faced with a choice about food or movement, you can ask yourself, which choice aligns with my value of energy? Which choice supports my value of freedom? This makes your decisions feel authentic and empowering rather than imposed and restrictive. It moves you from a place of obligation to a place of intention. My own relationship with movement and food has been its own journey of discovery and moving from control to collaboration. I've worked with trainers and nutritionists. I've tried countless programs, and I've slowly learned what actually works for my body and my life now. I've discovered that I love lifting weights, but cardio feels like a chore. So I have a Bellicon rebounder that's fun and gentle on my joints. I fell in love with Pilates reformer work, so now I have a Pilates reformer at home. Currently, I am following Caroline Gervan's strength programs. She has free ones on YouTube. I happen to use the app. And for cardio days, I dance badly with the Fitness Marshal on YouTube. I sometimes go left when everyone on the video goes right. I might be slower than those on my TV screen, but I can laugh at myself and keep moving because something is always better than nothing. And I've also learned that deprivation just does not work for me. It leads to a cycle of restriction and rebellion. So for me, Friday nights are a night out or takeout with the family. I can enjoy myself without overindulging. During the week, I can have a few squares of good chocolate, but I don't have to eat a whole candy bar. When I'm out at a gathering or a party, I can have a small slice of cake without feeling like I have to finish half of it. This approach of moderation feels sustainable and joyful in a way that extreme restriction just never did. Am I at some arbitrary goal weight that I've set for myself when I was 30? No. And honestly, I'm not even sure if that number matters anymore. What matters is that I am building a relationship with my body based on care rather than criticism, progress rather than perfection. I am in this for the long haul, and that changes everything for me. And these shifts did not happen overnight. There were days, and there still are days when I'm frustrated, when I feel like sometimes I should go back to the old ways of restriction and punishment because they felt familiar. But I kept coming back to the question, what kind of relationship do I want to have in my body for the next 20, 30, or 40 years? Do I want it to be based on fear and control or respect and collaboration? And that answer became clear. I want to be able to move and feel good in my body for as long as possible. I want to model a healthy relationship with food and movement for my family and friends. I want to spend my mental energy on things that matter, not on obsessing over every bite of food or every pound on the scale. So here's your weekly homework. Practice small, gentle shifts that help you build a more compassionate relationship with your body. Choose exercises that feel relevant to where you are right now. Maybe for the first few days, you're just becoming aware of that inner critic within you, observing it. Notice what thoughts about your body come up and not trying to change them. And when you catch one of those thoughts, you can just simply say, oh, there's that voice again, and brush it off. At the end of the day, in your journal, you can write down 3 or 5 of these thoughts as just an awareness, no judgment. And ask yourself, are these thoughts in your own voice, or do they sound like someone else from your past? And then the next few days, you might want to reframe those internal dialogue thoughts. Do the best friend test. Take one of those thoughts and ask, would I say this to my best friend? And then rewrite that thought as if you were speaking to someone who you love deeply. Practice saying the kinder version to yourself when the critical voice appears. Example, you could say, I look terrible. And reframing that could maybe look like I'm having a hard day with my body image. And that's okay. Do a health value inventory. Write down your 3 to 5 values that are the top around health and well-being for you. These could be energy, freedom, joy, strength, peace, connection. And for each value you decide upon, write a sentence about why it matters to you. When making choices about food or movement, you might want to ask yourself which choice aligns with my value of, and then choose one of your values. Notice how this feels different from making choices based on external roles. And towards the end of this week, set aside 10 to 15 minutes for a quiet reflection to future self-visualize yourself. You can look at this a year down the road, 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, whatever works for you. Notice yourself feeling vibrant, alive, energetic, and at peace with your body. Focus on the other feelings that are coming up for you, or thoughts of how you want to feel, not how you want to look. You might even practice visualizing what you are able to do. What does your daily schedule look like? Are you doing anything then that you can't do now? What makes you happy? What brings you joy? And at the end of this visualization, write your vision down and refer back to it when you need to make choices daily. Put away your scale for the week. Notice how you feel not stepping on this scale, either weekly or daily. What comes up? Anxiety, relief, curiosity? Try a new form of movement this week that sounds fun, and it can be something as simple as dancing in your kitchen. How does it feel? We're not going to worry about the calories burned or the muscle groups that you've worked. And asking yourself, what would movement look like if it was only just joy? These will all be very helpful exercises for you to do to practice not being perfect, but just in practice. And some days are gonna feel easier than others. That's completely normal. The goal is to begin noticing and doing gentle shifts with the relationship you have with your body, from criticism to curiosity, from control and collaboration. Be patient with yourself. This is work that is lifelong, and every small exercise that you do and each step you take does matter. Your body is your home, your partner in this life, and it deserves to be treated with kindness and respect, not an enemy to be conquered. Can you do this for the long haul? Can you let go of quick fixes and pushing routines and building a slow and steady relationship with your body that can last a lifetime? One that is based on listening, respect, and collaboration? Can you celebrate the small victories, such as going for a small walk, even if you had a busy day? Or choosing a nourishing meal when you're out if you have a busy week? Not because you wanted to or had to, but because it just felt right for you to make that decision. I don't want you to give up on your health. I want you to show up for your health in a more compassionate, sustainable, and loving way for the future. If you're doing this, you're going to be in it for the long game, knowing that your body is your home, your partner, and you're choosing to treat it with kindness and respect. Thank you for joining me in this very important conversation. Until next time, be kind to yourself. Trust the wisdom that your body is sharing with you. I'll see you on the next episode of Midlife Moxie with Nicole Hate. Before you go, I want to make sure that you know how to stay connected to this work, because what we have talked about today this is just the beginning. If you're sitting there thinking, holy shit, she just described my entire life, and you want to know exactly what patterns are running the show in your life, I've created something specifically for you. You can head on over to my website, www.nicolehate.com, and take the assessment, which sacred pattern is running your midlife. It's a free diagnostic tool that will tell you exactly where you are in your own conditioning and what your next steps should be. There's no fluff, no generic advice, just precise information about your specific patterns. Because here's the thing, you can't interrupt what you can't see. And most women are trying to change their lives without understanding the deeper nervous system conditioning that is actually driving their choices. If you want to dive deeper into these conversations and connect with other women who are also done performing their way through life, you can join my private Facebook group. Link will be in the show notes. And it's where we have conversations, real, raw, unfiltered truth about women in midlife. And if you want to be on my VIP list for weekly doses of truth that maybe help keep you accountable to your own transformation, there is a link in the show notes, but there's also a link at my website, www.nicolehate.com, where you can sign up to be on my email list. This isn't a typical newsletter filled with tips and inspiration, though I do include that from time to time. This is a newsletter where I share hard truths, insights, raw, unfiltered things that are just not socially acceptable on social media. And these awarenesses that you can take away from what I share can be a catalyst for change. So I invite you to sign up. And if you're ready to go even deeper, because you might be tired of all of this surface level work and you really want a whole system level transformation, everything you need to know about working with me is on my website, www.nicolehate.com. I'm not a coach, and this isn't coaching, and it's not therapy, and it's sure as hell not spiritual bypassing. This is a resurrection of the nervous system. And this is for the woman who is ready to stop performing and start living. You can also follow me on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at I am Nicole Hate, where I share reminders about conditioning and women and midlife, confronting truths and desires that are just frankly not up for negotiation. So next week we will continue to have discussions that likely will make some of you squirm. It is what I'm best at. But if this episode shifted something for you, do me a favor and leave a review. Not because I need an ego boost, but because there are women out there who are Googling, why do I feel invisible in my own life at 2 a.m.? And your review might be what helps them find this podcast. Your review could also be the breadcrumb that leads another woman out of performance prison and into her own resurrection. So until next week, remember, you don't need permission to want what you want. You never did. That was just conditioning dressed up as consideration. You're a woman in midlife. You don't need permission. You just need to have desires and wants and the ability to be able to go after all of them. So stop asking and start claiming.